Recording Academy, mastering your song.
All right, everyone, now it's time we talk about mastering the song. This is a topic that seems to be losing attention as the years go by, especially when you're used to mixing and recording your own music. This can be done in a couple of different ways. I'll show you my preferred way of doing it, and I'll show you the way that PreSonus Studio One has some built-in features that you can, of course, make use of. So personally, if I'm happy with the way that the mix sounds, I can't send this off to someone else because I'm the only one that's working on it. So any sort of decision, if I thought the kick drum sounded bad, I just need to go in and change the kick drum or make changes to the mix. So on my mix bus, personally, when I'm going in and I'm just looking at exporting my song or mastering the song, I'm gonna go in and add an effect. And in the PreSonus Studio One, they have a built-in plugin called Limiter. Now with a limiter, this is essentially a compressor that will not allow certain information above a threshold. And what this allows us to do is to get as much volume as possible out of the mix without distorting. So the main things we want to be concerned with are the ceiling and then the gain knob. On the ceiling, I'm going to type in minus 1.01 dB. I'm a little bit superstitious about some of this stuff, but basically I want to give myself 1 decibel of headroom so that when I'm exporting the song or as it's being moved around, I don't have to worry about it clipping. You can, by all means, you can leave this at 0 if you want your ceiling to be at 0, but when it gets to 0, 0 is clipping. So try to move the ceiling down just a little bit, maybe even 0.03 decibels might be good to start with. And then we have the gain knob. And the only way you're gonna know how much to turn up the gain knob is by looking at how much reduction you have. So here on the screen, you can see reduction says 0 dB. I'm gonna go to one of the more louder portions of the song. I'm gonna let it play. You'll see the audio coming in. And what we don't wanna see on the reduction, I don't wanna see hardly any reduction whatsoever. Maybe once in a while would be okay. That lets me know it's hitting the limiter, but I don't want to be aggressively hitting the limiter. It should not be reducing that much volume. So I'm going to hit play. You'll see me increase the gain or decrease as needed.
Where I come from, just a dirt road in the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from. Where I come from. Where I come from. That's where I come from.
Nice. So as you can see with the limiter, we are getting some limiting about 2 to 3 decibels, but it's only happening on some of the more egregious hits on the drums. And I'm okay with that because by and large, we didn't compress the drums that much whatsoever. And what I'm hearing in my headphones is just fine. So that would be a simple way of going through and making sure that our gain is, you want to get as much volume as you possibly can so that when you export your song, it's not too quiet. If your song were too quiet and you don't see any reduction happening, you of course need to increase the gain. I only had to increase the gain about 1.98, about 2 decibels being added there. And for all intents and purposes, I would be ready to export this song so that I can go do my car test. So the car test, believe it or not, if I asked you where's the place that you listen to music most often, you could easily say your AirPods. Maybe you have a pair of AirPods that you listen to music or podcasts all day long. For most of us, it's going to be in the car. So when you're driving around, you're either Bluetooth or you're listening to stuff in your car speakers sound system. And believe it or not, the place that you listen to music most often is going to give you the truest, most unbiased summation of what you're hearing. So what I'll often do is I'll export the song, I'll airdrop it to my phone, and then I'm going to take it to my car. I'm going to listen to it in the car speakers because that's where I'm used to listening to music too. Of course, if you're using headphones like me to mix your audio, you need to check in on multiple sources as well. So I've got a pair of AirPods Pro. I'll put those in, I'll listen to it, bounce to another song. Maybe there's like a John Mayer song or somebody that you've been listening to a lot. You can compare their songs as well, just to find out, are the drums too loud? Are the drums too quiet? You can get a lot of your clarity from that, but we need to know how to export our songs. So there's a couple of different ways to do that, and I'm going to get back to mastering in just a minute. So up at the top where we have our global track visibility, we want to unleash the marker tool. When you open up the marker tool, you should see a start flag and an end flag. So we want to narrow these in, kind of squeeze them in so that we know where the start of our song is and the end. So this song actually begins on measure 5. Measure 5 is the first note we hear. What I want to do is I want to go just like an 8th note or 16th note just before measure 5. It gives me a little bit of room to start the song. And then the end of the song, I want to find when all of the audio is absolutely finished. Right at about 71. So I'm going to put this on 71, and that is my end. Very important, because now when we want to export our song, if this were the chosen route of mastering your song, you essentially go into Song and then Export Mixdown. At Export Mixdown, I want to name this Where I Come From. I'm going to put a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to put Mastered Version 1. I'm not going to publish this one right now. The export formats, you're used to seeing MP3. By all means, you can export an MP3 if you need to, but the thing about MP3, it is one of the most degraded versions of audio that you can export. So I highly recommend you stick to WAV file if you can. Go to WAV file, you want to set it to 24-bit 48K. This will be the truest representation of the audio as you've been listening to it in PreSonus Studio One, but you can also do multiple exports. So you don't have to stick to just WAV. You can have WAV and MP3 selected. I just say if you're going to do MP3, make sure you keep it at 48K, go with a constant bit rate and change it to 320 kilobytes per second. This is going to give you the most high quality MP3 as possible. MP3 is going to be a smaller file size, but like I said, it's got a lot of lost information as well. Now, export range, it will ask you, do you want to export what's between your loop region, which for this song would be way too much. So we're going to change it to between song start and end marker, which is the ones that we just set up. So between song start and end, I don't want to adjust the loudness whatsoever. I've got an output. I want to choose the main, speaker format original, write tempo to audio files. And I'm going to click OK. As soon as I do, now it is doing an export of our song. Our song is now theoretically finished. But what we're going to do, of course, is I want to take my phone nearby. All intents and purposes, this is my audio file. My song is now complete. So this is the first way of mastering. It's more convenient, and especially if you're doing your own mixing, you've been working on this song yourself for so long, there's no reason you couldn't do it this way. If you want to be a little bit more professional about it, there is a process in PreSonus Studio One where it has a mastering page. So I'm going to go up to Song. I'm going to go to Update Mastering File. It says updating mastering file of this song. The song will be saved first. Output main, duration 2 minutes, 26 seconds, 32-bit, real-time processing, no, etc. We'll say yes. It's updating the mastering file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work our way to the project page, where it's going to have a little bit more of a readout of information that we can take a look at. Okay, so now it's got our exported, it's got our updated mastered file. We can go up to Song, Add to Project, and we're going to create a new project, Where I Come From. Of course, I want to keep it the same song. I want it to be a 48 kilohertz. I'm going to say OK. It is now updated our mastered file, so I'm going to click OK. It's going to do one more sweep through. It does it quite often. It wants to make sure that your mix is exactly what it is rendering for the project page. So now here at the bottom, what we have is our exported mastered track. Now you see this screen looks very different than our mix window. If you have multiple songs loaded, you'll see multiple songs down here at the bottom. So the great thing about a project page is that you can quickly reference multiple songs within one album. So if you're working on an album or a collection of songs, definitely make use of the project page as I've been showing you. But with this project page, if I hit play, you're gonna see a lot of information being visible on the screen. Up here, we have sort of our frequency read off, and then we have our LUFS, which are loudness units, full scale. We'll be able to see how loud this actually is, be able to make adjustments as needed. So let me go ahead and hit play. We'll listen for just a little bit.
Where my Uncle Buckwind broke his arm doing tricks in '03. That creek is my ocean, those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more? Where I come from, where I come from, just a dirt road near the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch.
Okay, so now a great thing about this mastered page is that you can go in, and this sort of works just like your mix bus or your print bus, whatever you want to call it, would be. I can go in here and add an EQ if I want to. So now I've got another EQ.
Just a boat.
I can filter this song as much as possible.
Right when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from. Late one night out by the moonlight, we watched the stars come out. And when we were half asleep, we heard an awful sound. A big ugly beast came tumbling as we all ran through the woods.
Okay, so like I've shown you, you can have the Pro EQ, you can add your limiter. Of course, if you've made it this far, you know that in the previous example, I just put the limiter on the mix bus. Theoretically, that's doing the same thing that the project page is doing, but the benefits of the project page are that you can reference multiple songs at the same time. Here we have our meta information, metadata. So if you want to go in and add some of these things about who the songwriter is, composer, arranger, I can put Chris Green. Genre, I can put country. Year, I can put 2025. I can add some artwork if I want to, which we'll get to in just a minute. Your EAN, this is available from whatever sort of distributor you're using. It's kind of like your barcode number, if you will. The album, I'll call it Where I Come From Single by Chris Green. Okay. From here, of course, you can make your release. If you want to do a digital release, any of this stuff will certainly work. You can click digital release there. You can add all of the tracks you want. And it's a very similar process to what I showed you in the previous example when we exported the mix down. We can do a WAV and an MP3 if we would like. Change MP3 to 48K. Use range of events, add track numbers, add artist to file name, use real-time processing. I don't know if there's any benefit to using real-time processing. Other people have covered this more extensively. I've never done the real-time processing versus the quick processing. Doesn't seem to be a difference to me, but you can certainly check that if you want. It'll just take a lot longer. Then you have album mode as well, and you can click OK. Of course, it'll go through and it'll make your release. And here we have our two waveforms. We've got this file right here for WAV and then MP3, of course, right here. Now, one of the things I want to say about mastering is part of the reason that it's kind of lost a lot of talk lately is because so many digital platforms are actually compensating for loudness. So it used to be back in the day, everyone was fighting over how loud their music could be because on the radio, they wanted to have the loudest mix possible. Well, nowadays with YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, they all have some sort of loudness normalization. So it's a very bad experience for your customers if they're listening from song to song and then you're hearing this drastic change in volume. Nobody wanted that. So by default, a lot of these platforms already take care of the loudness for you. I would not get too bent out of shape trying to make sure that you hit certain targets for loudness. Like if you know that there is a Weezer song where their loudness units is -12, don't try to hit -12 at risk of messing up your mix. If you're happy with the mix, the way that sounds in your car, the way it sounds in your AirPods, if your friends are listening to it, they like the sound of it, don't get bent out of shape that maybe it's at -13 LUFS rather than -12. That's something that you can really go down a rabbit hole with as well. But by and large, that is the mastering process. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about creating our album art, which is going to be useful, especially when you're exporting the songs. You want to make sure you have a good picture loaded. I'll see you there at the next lesson. Now there are many other videos here on my channel other than the Recording Academy, but make sure you check the playlist for Recording Academy for more lessons as they're being uploaded. YouTube is recommending this video just over my shoulder, so give that one a watch and I'll see you at the next video.